Greetings YouTube and welcome to the Dragon Network. Today's video is going to be a deck profile, but it's not going to be on these guys. I'm going to save that for a little later in the week instead. I've got a more fun and popular deck that you guys will really enjoy seeing, and that would be an update to my Frog Monarch decks now that Hidden Arsenal 7 has come out, and the extra decks gained a new trick that's really helpful. So, that being said, let's jack in and go over this, shall we? Okay, so as far as the deck goes, I'm running in my monsters 3 copies of Caius the Shadow Monarch, 2 copies of Rise of the Storm Monarch, and 1 copy of Thessalos the Firestorm Monarch. I'm running this right now as I've seen a lot of people comment on how they're finding Ryza to be a bit underwhelming in the format, as he's just not been as good as in the past. So I figure, why run the 3rd Ryza when I could tech in a copy of Thessalos to knock cards out of the hand, such as Gorz, Treg, Priestess, Megalo, Tanky, or Reborn, or something like, just a good card in general, because people are holding onto their good cards until they're ready to make their big push. So again, knocking those power cards out of the hand and potentially burning them at the same time, rather helpful. Also, it's rather good during like the stages of the game where your opponent isn't committing very much to the field because they know you're playing Monarchs, and they don't want to lose their best stuff to Caius and Ryza. So again, Thessalos punishes them for holding cards in their hand. I'm only running the 1 copy though. More than that seems a bit much. I still like just 6 Monarchs in general. But yeah, this is just what I got from my Monarch line. Then for the non-Monarchs, 2 copies of Light and Darkness Dragon, my second favorite card in the game, as you guys know. Copy of Jinzo to shut down traps, and Dark Dust Spirit to nuke the field of monsters. Very nice for when your opponent tries to OTK you, you fade her, and then they realize, oh fuck, I'm probably going to lose everything, aren't I? And like, yup, troll face. So now we get to the frogs themselves. 3 copies of Swat Frog, 3 copies of Treeborn, and 1 copy of Rodent Totem. I have to admit, when I first saw this lineup of frogs in those decks that had topped YCSs, I'm like, huh, that seems really weird, and like, I don't know, I was like, lack a dupe frog, not sure how I feel. Well, after playing around with this kind of style, I have to admit, it's actually quite good. The extra Treeborns are a non-issue now that we have Slacker Magician to just overlay the 1 Treeborn with the other Treeborn to give you a 2100 chump blocker that has to be killed. I mean, that requires 2 attacks from something with over 2100 attack in order to be. During the early game, that's not going to be happening that often outside of a major power play. And then you punish them for it by making a Monarch drop. So, there. Now, what else do I got? Yes, my hand traps. First, my OTK stoppers, double Tragodia, Gorz, triple fader, pretty standard. I've seen some builds that don't run the Trags and instead run Illusionary Snatchers. Not sure how I feel about that either. Like, I feel like Tragodia is just really good, especially when you consider that you can have him copy Monarchs in the graveyard to make him level 6, and then you overlay him with the Caius in order to make Constellar Ptolemy M7, and then you detach the Caius to get the Caius back to your hand, or Light and Darkness Dragon that might have died. And then, last hand trap, Effect Veiler. Pretty typical. What may strike you as odd would be the 2 copies of Card D in the deck. I'm rather liking this, actually. It's great during that early game where you're trying to just get to your stuff, your swaps, your Treeborns, your Monarchs, your spells, and while it does suck to lose your normal summon, there are those times where you can't really summon the Caius because, again, your opponent isn't putting anything on the field. Well, Card is a great card. You can just summon it, pop it, draw 2, you drew an extra Treeborn Frog, you discard it. Or you open with this in Power Duality, draw into the Treeborn Frog, discard it. Like, it's really great for those times. Admittedly, it's terrible during the late game, but that's the risk I'm willing to take. However, I do see myself dropping this for Maxi if I continue to play this deck after Tachyon Galaxy, as the format will be so stupidly fast that you really will need the Maxis to ensure you live. Now, let's get to the real fun part of the deck, Enemy Controller, because, let's face it, Monarchs abuse the fuck out of this. Standby phase, Treeborn Frog, sack the Treeborn Frog, take their best monster. Standby phase, get Treeborn back. So much plus. Oh man, I actually almost stole Gearkin X with this just so I could make Card D, and then he was like, oh shit, I can't let you do that in book. Otherwise I was gonna like, yeah, so go super plus. And why did I pick that up? That's supposed to stay down here. But yeah, Econ busted in here. So is Soul Exchange. It allows you to like around certain threat monsters, Logia, Dolka, Abyss Gaios, if they have an Abyss Gyos, you can just sack the Gyos, summon Thestalos, knock a card out of their hand, and again, do stuff like that. Or you can summon Caius and well, if you try and banish the Abyss Sphere, they'll like chain it, so you're fucked in that regard. But still, this does get around cards like that, which would utterly lock you down and make you unable to do stuff. And then for the 2 MST, pretty good in here. 2 copies of Polar Duality, again, just to dig into your stuff. There are those times where you're not going to summon Treeborn. You're sitting on a Sacra Magician, just waiting to get to your Monarchs and such forth. Polar Duality helps in that. Late game, not so much, but hey, again, I'm willing to make that slight sacrifice for more consistency that Polar Duality brings, and same for Card. And lastly, I've got the Unholy Trinity. One of these cards should be banned. Guess which one? Now, let's get to the extra deck, which again, I've mentioned at least one good card in here, but there's also another good card in here. First up, Gaia Dragon, the Thunder Charger. Again, enemy controller, still rank 5 or rank 6 to make this guy. Pretty good. Bouncer, one of the best rank 6s, same for this guy. And then there's this guy. Oh my goodness, just being able to like overlay a Caius and a Ryza, or a Caius and a Tragodia that's copying a level 6 to make this guy detach Caius, get back Dark Dust Spirit, get back Light and Darkness Dragon. Like, the things that this guy can get from your graveyard, or just things that he can get out of the way, like your opponent sitting on a big threatening monster. I don't think so. Like, this is great. And then when it's used its materials, you can turn it into a 2600 Trampler. Wonderful. Then one copy of Daigusto Phoenix for poking, especially with Ryza. Oh, the damage you do with that. 2 copies of Gachi, 1 copy of Sacra Magician. 2100 defense requires at least 2 attacks to be beaten over. If they try and target it, you can negate and destroy it. Overall, very good. I kind of want to put a second one in here, and I have a good idea of what I'd cut for it. Probably this guy, as I'm starting to realize, wait a minute, who the fuck would make Stardust Dragon against Monarchs? But I figure it'd be an amazing trolling idea, at least for my locals, where Stardust Dragon still sees play, what with Road and just Synchro decks in general. You can econ the Stardust, and then when you make Formula Synchron, you can just go into Shooting Star Dragon. Now you have a 3300 Negator that can block attacks too. Again, you don't see it that often, but I figure, yeah, what the hell, why not? Scrap Dragon, Stardust, and Black Girls, like these guys are self-explanatory. You can make them with Formula Synchron plus a Monarch, or Veiler plus a Monarch. This is more or less going to be depending on what you Monster Reborn, since you don't really run level 4s in the deck, but Monster level 4 plus this, and level 4 plus Veiler plus this, level 3 plus Veiler, so possibly Swap Frog, or just like a tour guide that you Veilered and ended up killing with Thessalos or Ryza or something like that. I mean, after Ryza their back row. I never really made it, but it's kind of there. And then lastly, Formula Synchron, because Treeborn Frog plus Veiler, that sometimes happens too. Fishboard Blaster cannot come back. At least not in this style. I will say, however, though, that there's going to be another 100 card traditional deck challenge coming up at my local Pegasus tournament. Guess what deck I'm really leaning towards building? Yeah, I'm leaning towards building a 100 card Monarch style traditional deck. Oh my god, the cards I'm going to get to work with. I'm going to be meaning 3 Thestalos in that. I'll probably try and pick up some more Zaborgs for the deck too, because I'll run triple Thestalos, triple Zaborg, triple Caius, triple Ryza, and I might run an Illusionary Snatcher in that. I've got Brain Control, Snatch Steal, Change of Hearts, Confiscation, Painful Choice out, 3 Treeborn Frogs, and 2 Rodent Totems, or just, oh my goodness, the things I'm going to do with this deck for that tournament, if I end up running this deck at that tournament. Sounds like a really good idea, though. Tell me what you think about the idea of a 100 card traditional Monarch deck and what I should be running in it, because I've gotten a plethora of banned cards I can use for this, so keep an eye out for that, because it's going to be awesome. But yeah, back to the topic at hand though, and that would be this advanced format Monarch deck. It's fairly typical. Don't know if I'll continue running it after Tachyon Galaxy. If I do, I'm going to have to make some changes so that this thing does not die in a couple turns, because yeah, Spellbook Judgment Day is kind of a thing. Elemental Dragons may be a thing. But Evil Swarms, you don't really have to worry about them. In fact, this deck fucking laughs at Evil Swarm. Oh, you made an Ophion. Guess what? I don't fucking care. So, yeah, that's it for the deck. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you all for watching. Until next time, stay frosty.